it's showtime. Or at least it will be in about 3 months. Until then, we gotta talk about this trailer. So the Beetlejuice trailer has officially dropped. The full trailer has dropped. And honestly, I have not been excited to see a trailer like this in a long time. I've been really looking forward to see like what this movie was going to be like. Obviously, we saw the teaser just a couple months ago, which really doesn't give a whole lot, but it made me really very excited because I really enjoy the first Beetlejuice movie. I think it's fantastic. I think it's really well done. Looking back on it, I really like a lot of aspects about it. And I think I like this movie more as an adult more than I did when I saw it for the first time when I was like 14 or 15 years old. So this was a movie that was also in development hell for so long that it's like, this movie has been in development hell longer than I've been alive, basically. And it's like, it seemed like it was never going to happen, and then all of a sudden it finally was happening. So immediately I was extremely excited, and some of the things I've heard about this movie where it's like they're using practical effects. Tim Burton had a good time making this movie. The first time he's directed something that, like, not the first time, but like, this is the best he's felt while directing a movie in a long time. And I was definitely curious to see like what our first full look was going to be like. This was a lot of fun, if I'm being honest. This trailer, sure, it's only 2 minutes. Maybe it doesn't give a whole lot, but I'm really excited to see this movie. So I'll start off with the things I do like in this trailer. First off, I do like the family issues that are kind of present in this movie. You kind of see like Lydia and her daughter, Winona Ryder returns to this movie, and you see her daughter played by Jenna Ortega. They're clearly having a lot of issues in this movie. And I definitely think that's a nice contrast to the original, because in the original it's clear that Lydia does not get along with, her dad or her stepmom and such, so she winds up bonding with, Adam and Barbara in the movie. So that was kind of interesting. It's kind of interesting to see like those issues play out in this movie. I kind of been curious to see like how that's going to affect the movie overall. Kind of like how Lydia's past kind of comes back in a way. I'm kind of interested to see how that goes. Meanwhile, there's so many Easter eggs in this trailer. You could basically just make a drinking game out of this. Like, all the Easter eggs, it's like, okay, that's really cool. It's like, and I do like the Easter eggs are not entirely in your face. It's not like they just dedicate a whole shot to it. Like, you kind of see one of Delia's sculptures at one point. You do see that there's the flyer for Beetlejuice has the original spelling of Beetlejuice, which is different from the actual title of the movie, but I do think that's really cool. I do like that we do get to see the Land of the Dead in this trailer. Like, we do see the Land of the Dead, which I still think is incredibly creative, and I have a lot of questions about the original Land of the Dead. And in this movie, it looks like they're definitely going to spend a lot more time in there. More than the Land of the Living, maybe, which that's kind of interesting. Let's see how that kind of plays out. As far as, like, in the movie itself, like, who are the performances that really stand out? Definitely Michael Keaton. Like, when I first saw Beetlejuice, it's like, I'm still surprised, even now, that was the same guy who played Batman just 1 year later, and, is the main character in Birdman and such. It's like, this guy, he steps back into the role perfectly. He's still as cartoonish as he was. I'm excited to see him on the big screen finally. As far as some of the new additions, Monica Bellucci looks pretty good. I'm guessing she's going to be the main villain of this movie. Willem Dafoe has some nice makeup work. Winona Ryder, really excited to see like how her character comes back in this movie. Jenna Ortega, I mainly bought the two of them as mother and daughter more than anything. I am really excited too about the practical effects in this movie. It's like when I heard they were going to use like more practical effects and CGI and such, I was automatically impressed because like I feel like this movie definitely would have had CGI if someone other than Tim Burton had directed it. Or if they tried to remake it rather than just simply try to make another sequel. But you do see a lot of practical effects. Like there's this plane that looks incredibly cheesy, but I was impressed. Sandworms, of course, on Saturn and such. Those looked incredibly cheesy, looked like the ones from the 80s and such. The Beetlejuice faces at one point, like you kind of see like his eyes bulge out at one point. It's like, yeah, that looks like, practical effects. Also, meanwhile, you kind of have like that little tease at the end with like his face and such where he's like, well, does this look like a figment of imagination? And then it does that gag from the first movie where it's like where he kind of makes a face but you don't see it and the other characters are just disturbed by it. It looks practical. It looks funny, but it does. I feel like the practical effects are going to help this movie more than hurt it. And I do like some individual moments, like you do see Delia in the Land of the Dead at one point. It's like, okay, that's going to be interesting. How is she going to handle it? Clearly not well. I didn't like Catherine O'Hara too much in this trailer. I felt like she doesn't really get a whole lot to do in this trailer. But you do see Delia and Beetlejuice at one point. That's the one moment where it was like, okay, that was really good. And also, like, there's that moment in the trailer where, Beetlejuice draws the bomb on, the wall and such, and that's how they enter in the Land of the Dead, that's kind of funny, because, like, in the original, Adam, drew a door just to enter the land of the dead. So it's like, it's kind of funny to me. It's like, someone as cartoony and over the top as Beetlejuice would draw a bomb to do that. It's like, okay, that's actually pretty funny. That's actually pretty clever. So I do like that. It does feel like a callback to 80s movies as well. At least like some of the trailer itself, when they kind of like show the names like one person at a time, it's like, this feels very 80s, very 90s-esque, where it's like kind of showing like each person off at a time. I do kind of like that. And again, I feel like the best thing about the callbacks itself is that it's callbacks to like things that kind of happen. And kind of like, there's various callbacks. Like there's callbacks to various jokes, like the face again. You know, don't get to see the face and such. The spelling of Beetlejuice. And I feel like the callbacks themselves are not very distracting. And also because it looks like this movie is not going to just be a retread of the original movie. That would have been really annoying to me if it was just a retread of the original movie. Like, what if, you know, Lydia and her spouse, they just died and then they have to deal with Beetlejuice and such? That would be kind of boring because, like, it's just the original movie again. So I'm kind of glad that this movie is at least looking like it's going to be an original story. Also, Danny DeVito's in this movie. That's just a positive. Danny DeVito's always a positive. But let's talk about some of the things I don't like about this trailer already that I have a lot of questions about. First off, Justin Theroux, I wasn't really impressed with him. I don't know what his character is exactly. Is he Lydia's husband? Is he the new Otho? Either one wouldn't really surprise me, but all he does in the trailer is just scream. I'm like, I may not like you if all you're going to do is scream. Oh well. Also, there's that whole issue with Jeffrey Jones. Obviously, Jeffrey Jones is not going to be in this movie, but it's just kind of weird. It's like, they mentioned his character is now dead, but are they going to kind of bring back his character and have, like, a different actor play him and such? It's going to be kind of weird, because, like, I feel like for a movie like this with, you know, dead people all over the place, it's like, you're probably going to run into her father at some point. It's like, you're going to probably have a different actor other than Jeffrey Jones, which, don't get me wrong, I'm glad Jeffrey Jones is not in this movie, but it's going to be kind of weird where I'm like, shouldn't this character who just recently passed also be in the Land of the Dead, maybe? I don't know. And also, are they going to mention Adam and Barbara at all? Obviously, they're not in the house where, you know, Lydia, Delia, and Astrid are now at, but, like, it's going to be kind of weird if they don't mention Adam and Barbara at one point. And also, I guess the one thing I'm also really confused about is, like, is Beetlejuice going to be, like, one of the main characters in this movie? Or at least the main villain? Yeah, he's the title character. But if you look back at the original Beetlejuice, he doesn't really appear in the movie until about halfway through. You kind of get teases of him and such, but he appears in the movie for like less than 20 minutes. That is surprising to me, because I feel like a character like Beetlejuice would overstay his welcome and just become incredibly annoying. And I feel like in the original, they knew that they shouldn't overuse his character. And I'm kind of worried they're going to overuse his character a bit. Also, it kind of looks like he's going to be the new Juno in this movie, because it looks like he's kind of a caseworker and such. How would he be a caseworker if he's so infamous? Like, I know in the original, Juno was like, he used to be my assistant and such, but it's just going to be kind of weird for someone as mischievous and as, you know, troubling as Beetlejuice is, you know, kind of a hero of this movie. Also, not to mention that in the original Beetlejuice, not only is he could be extremely annoying, extremely scary, but he's also incredibly creepy. Like, a lot of things he does in the original movie, I'm looking back on, I'm like, oh, how did I not really realize that Beetlejuice was a creep? How are they going to mention that? And also, if you do see this trailer in theaters, I saw it before Furiosa. Like, it debuted around noon in my time, and when I saw Furiosa a few hours later, there is no Lydia teaser in front of it. And I'm like, that is very disappointing. I would have loved to have seen the teaser in front of the trailer, in front of Furiosa. It does leave a lot of questions, like, is Lydia one of those, like, paranormal investigators like you kind of see on TV and such, where she would discuss about, like paranormal stuff or interview people who've experienced some of these events? I'd be curious to see what her job is like, if that's the case. So, Beetlejuice, I'm still incredibly excited for it. I think a lot of it looks really good. I'm very curious to see what this movie's like, and even though there are a couple things where I'm like, could you explain that a little bit more, or kind of like do something with that, so maybe it's not as weird, but I do think this is a movie that I'm extremely excited for. This, Deadpool, Wolverine, Twisters, this is like some of my most anticipated movies right now. This definitely has been high up there for a while, and I hope this movie lives up to my expectations. So, Beetlejuice, are you excited for it, and what's your experience with the original? Are you excited for the new one? Comment down below, subscribe to the channel. This is Pat. Stay safe.